All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. We'll be joined shortly by my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen. Hope everybody is doing well today, this fine Friday. As always, let's turn off all distractions, grab a pen and paper, let's take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. All right. Real quick, before we dive in, just drop me one in the chat. Make sure you can hear me okay. Perfect. Appreciate you. All right. Let's sweet. Let's dive in, man. Got a few things to cover this morning. Before we hop into the charts with some of the data that came out yesterday. So let's slide over to trading economics first and get this party started. All right. So first things first is PCE, personal consumption expenditure. Index in the U.S. is likely rose 0.3% month over month in September, below the 0.4% rise in August. And the annual rate is seen cooling to 3.4% from 3.5%. Meanwhile, annual core PCE inflation, which excludes food and energy, likely slowed to 3.7% from 3.9%, which would be the lowest reading since May 2021. The monthly rate, however, is seen rising to a 4-month high of 0.3% from 0.1% in August. PCE inflation is the Fed's preferred inflation metric, and September figures are likely to show that inflationary pressures continue to slowly moderate, although the rates remain above the central bank's target of 2%. All right, so on the core side, things are ticking up just a bit, right? So looking at decisions that the Fed has to make, this number is going to play into that, right? So it's got some cooling, but numbers are still are starting to tick up a bit from a monthly perspective. So we'll watch that and see how that impacts the Fed's decision going forward. Yesterday we're online as the Fed decision came out. We'll read some of those notes when we get over to trading Forex Factory. Brent crude futures rose toward $90 a barrel on Friday, but we're still set to lose about 3% this week amid easing concerns of a wider conflict in the Middle East. Analysts pointed to ongoing diplomatic efforts to delay an expected ground invasion of Gaza by Israel forces. Signs of weakening demand in the U.S., the world's top oil consumer, also weighed on prices. The EIA data showed that product supply for both motor gasoline, distillate fuels significantly fell last week, while refinery crude runs and utilization rates also dropped. The report showed that U.S. crude, inventory rose by 1.37 million barrels last week, exceeding the forecast of 0.239 million barrels. So the easing potential, the diplomatic efforts in Israel and in Gaza are causing a little ease in the concerns of continued expansion in the war in the Middle East. So that is impacting oil a bit, but oil is still starting to move back to the upside. So we'll continue to watch oil to see if we get that continued push long as we've been expecting. So we'll watch that there. Let's go over to trading economics and talk there. I'll come back to that note. But Christine Lagarde, in her press conference yesterday, just going to read some of the tweets that were sent out just to give us a view of what she said. Economy remains weak. Manufacturing has continued to fall. Subdued demand, tighter financing, dampening consumption. Economy likely to remain weak for the rest of the year. Right, so they're looking at the weakness in the economy as for reason for the pause. Right, and this was more of a dovish pause because they are looking at everything that is happening. Yes, they aren't at 2%. Yes, inflation. Yes, the rates could be higher for longer, but they're looking at what is happening overall, and they are seeing prices or things start to slow. So then some of the other concerns, energy prices become less predictable on geopolitical concerns. And most measures of core inflation continue to decline. So they're starting to feel the impacts of their rate increases. So they're starting to moderate their pace and how they've been moving. So I took it more of a dovish conversation, and I think the market did too. So we'll continue to watch things there. And then risk to growth remain tilted to the downside. So we'll continue to watch things as they develop, but we did start to get some movement in some of the euros there. So then we had yesterday Tokyo core CPI exceeded expectations. So here, CPI in one of the largest cities in Japan, consumer price growth in Tokyo unexpectedly quickened for the first time in 4 months in October, indicating that inflation is proving stickier than expected as the Bank of Japan prepares to set policy next week. Consumer prices, excluding fresh food, rose to 2.7% in the capital, with growth accelerating from 2.5% in September as hotels shot up and electricity subsidies were pared back. Figures from the Ministry of International Affairs showed on Friday, right? So inflation ticking up in Japan. So as the Bank of Japan gets ready to make their rate decision, something that they have to take into account, right? They've been saying they don't want to make any changes. This puts pressure on that decision as inflation kind of turns around and starts pushing to the upside, as opposed to moving closer to that 2% target that they've been seeking. So this is going to make the conversation next week interesting. I'll send you guys this full article here, but this puts investors in a space where they feel like the Bank of Japan could potentially make some changes sooner rather than later. So and move up their timeline in which they want to make those changes. So this is going to be interesting, and we'll get an overview put into the Discord as well. But this is going to be interesting to see how it impacts the rate statement that is due on Monday for the Bank of Japan. So definitely got to keep that in the back of our minds as we look at those yen crosses. There's a Euro summit happening today. Core PCE for the dollar is also coming out at 8:30 today. We got FOMC member Barr speaking. U of M consumer sentiment also coming out today. So that's where we are from a fundamental perspective. I missed these. Advanced GDP unemployment claims for the dollar yesterday. Advanced GDP above expectation. Unemployment claims above expectation, which sounds like the economy is still relatively strong. Unemployment claims are starting to tick up. So we'll watch that number continue to rise as well. Then we had advanced GDP above expectation, core durable goods above expectation, and durable goods above expectation as well. So those are orders coming in. So economy is still strong. However, we are seeing unemployment claims start to tick up a bit. So interesting dynamics as we move through the current state of things. Benny, good morning, bro.
Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back.
Thanks, man. Glad to be back, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So, lots going on, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tons happening, man. Um, anything standing out for you from the data that came out, or even from the charts themselves?
No, a pretty resilient, U.S. market with the GDP numbers. So the greed continues, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The greed continues. That I truly believe that's what we're riding off of now. But we'll see today
facts.
with the PCE numbers, right?
Yeah,
That'll come out. We know this is the Fed's preferred measure, of inflation. Whereas, you look at your CPI, it's what, households are buying, but your PCE is going to give you an angle and of measurement in regards to what businesses are selling, right? So it gives them a little
yeah,
deeper dive into any shift, in consumer. So yes, people are buying, but have they shifted in regards to what they are buying, right? The type of things they are buying or the type of things that they're buying less expensive, and things like that. So that number should be interesting. That dollar yen broke 150.
yeah,
And we see we've come slightly back below that. So like you said, next week with Japan, maybe they have just they come with the jawboning and the rhetoric. But it's been over a year. We've seen no change in monetary policy really. So with Japan, so it'll be interesting, with this data that you were just talking about that came out and what they say, if there's any change in what they say. So should be interesting as we close out, October and move into November, and see what happens with the monetary policy with these central banks.
yes, sir. Things will definitely get interesting.
Yeah, that was definitely a dovish
Def
tone from Lagarde yesterday, though.
Were you about to say something else, bro?
Oh no, I said it was definitely a dovish tone from Lagarde yesterday. I
Oh,
second you.
yeah.
I second you. I second you on that one. So,
Okay. Yep.
yeah.
So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the month of November plays out, right? So as we move into the end of the month, right, we could see things potentially slow a bit. The last couple of days of the month, normal trend. So yeah, team, is there anything that you guys saw from a fundamental perspective that stood out to you, or any questions that you guys have from a fundamental perspective? No? All right, cool deal. Let's slide over to these charts and see what is happening here. So DXY, right, came back to those higher levels within this range that we've been in, and we're starting to pull back, right? Starting to pull back. So we didn't get a breakout of the resistance levels, right? Pulling back down. So we'll watch and see how things move. If this is just a pullback to retest some of these lower levels for us to continue higher, or do we make our way back to the bottom of the range? Okay, but still in this range nonetheless. So with this pullback, you'll see those dollar crosses moving in the opposite direction. Okay. So that is just a quick look at the dollar. What was I going to say? My mind just went blank. I apologize. Anywho, this dollar yen moving to the upside still, right? Pull out these smaller waves for a second. All right, we're still in this phase. We looked at this yesterday, but boom, right? So we're pulling back a bit off of the high, off that break of that 150 level. But as we talked about yesterday, right, as long as we see these small ticks to the upside, that will hold the Bank of Japan off. A couple weeks ago, we also talked about them changing the way that they're looking at the price movement, and it's not as much as the number anymore, as opposed to the volatile movements. So that 150 level is something that is key, and they are watching, but they also want to make sure that we're not getting large spikes in one direction or the other. So we'll continue to watch to see how this dollar yen continues to move over the next few hours into and then into Monday, right? Sunday and Monday. So but overall still moving to the upside nonetheless for this dollar yen. So in this pullback, we'll see how some of these lower levels fare, even some of the previous resistance levels, if this is just a pullback to retest those levels for another push to the upside, which honestly, that is my expectation. And I am looking at 151.941 and this D extension at 152 to be achieved before we see any movements in the opposite direction for the yen. But that will be based on what the Bank of Japan has to say come Monday. So, but that's just a quick look on the dollar yen. Check out this pound Swissy play that we've been in for a bit, right? 80-20 scenario on the 4-hour time frame, shallow retracement, 118-127 zone, and we're slowly making these higher lows, right? Now we need a higher high to form. 382 is at 110 on the upside there. Okay. So we're making progress. Right, making progress out of that 118-127 zone by 108 pips, right off my entry there, 79 pips to the upside. So we're making progress to the upside, got a bit to go, but price is moving in our favor nonetheless on these Swissy crosses. We'll take a look at some of those others as well to see what types of progress they are making. Coming down to the one, right, just see that a little bit more closely here. And the 80-20 scenario on the 1-hour time frame is there. All right, so slowly making our way to the upside, and we'll look for that trend to continue. So if you want, you can run your sub fibs off the high there. You see the pullback, see the smaller wave of the sub fib 80-20 on the pullback, right back into the zone. Back that conversation we had yesterday, looking at those lower time frames, right, seeing how they play out. And then we're making our way back to the upside. All right, so that's the pound Swiss. Any questions there? Nope. All right, cool deal. Let's take a look at this CAD Swiss. This is the one that's been taking its sweet time. So from a daily time frame perspective, we did push all the way back down to this weekly support level at 64,752, our third time at this level. And you see right now we got bullish action coming here. So starting to turn over, we'll see, right? We had long wicks previously, so we'll see if we're able to sustain this movement to the upside and finally break this little bit of resistance that we're seeing right here at 65,291. Okay. If we can break that level, then we can start to see some action to the upside. So that's the daily time frame look. coming down to the 4, right? There's that consolidation that we've been seeing. So again, if we can break this resistance here, right, we can be off on the move to the upside. And again, let's go back to the daily time frame, right? We have a couple scenarios here, right? From a shorter time frame perspective, we have this actually no, that AB boundary was taken out, so that one is no longer in play. That D extension got achieved, so we'll get a new AB boundary here to the downside on the sub fibs, right? And that just shows our consolidation that we've been in there. From a larger perspective on the daily though, right, this is the 80-20 scenario that we're sitting in, right? So at some point, right, we'll look for price to break this level, make its way to that 382, which is 500 or so pips to the upside there. Okay. So looking for price to continue moving to the upside. So coming back to that 4-hour time frame, right? There's our 4-hour fib, and we're trying to get that push to the upside. And we'll see if we can finally break out of that consolidation, that AB boundary, and push to the upside. Coming down to the 1, right? Shorter time frame moves. Here we are, right? Shallow retracement 118 to 127 zone. There's your consolidation in that 118 to 127 zone that we typically see, right? And we got another break of the cloud to the upside. We do have now Kumo twist ahead, right? And we have our lagging span above price. So we have all 3 of our actually 4, we had a TK crossover here as well. All 4 of our points of confirmation coming in line together on the cloud as we push. So we'll see if we finally get that move to the upside and a break of that level there. All right. So slowly moving, but trying to make its way. 1-hour TP level 65,644. And that TP2 is there at 65,901, right? So that one's starting to move in our favor. Any questions on that CAD Swiss?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Cool deal. Aussie Swiss. This one is running. So from a daily time frame perspective, right, here's our 80-20 on the daily. Okay. Double bottom, weekly support, 56,051. And we're pushing to the upside, right? We struggled a bit, came back down, retested. So now we're pressing back to the upside. Next level, 59,298 will be the one to watch. And if we're able to break that, then we could, be off to the races for a bit to the upside, and making our way to that daily 382 level, which is there at 64,683. Didn't draw this in, but we'll watch this off the daily time frame as well. Drop in our setup like that. And like that. Boom. All right, so that's just to the TP1 on the daily. And then we'll watch things from there and see if we get continued movement to the upside, continued rallies in the commodity currencies, or if things change once we get there. We also got a monthly resistance level there at 65,674, which is just shy of that 50% retracement level. So got a few things that we're looking at there and watching. So so that's from a daily perspective. Coming down to the 4, right? Here's our 80-20 scenario on the 4. All right, we just wicked that 118 level, which was in line with that weekly support, right? Tried to take off, pulled back. Now we are moving to the upside, and this pullback gave us a higher low, right? And now we're making a higher high. So we are on the move. Now it's about trade management and looking for fundamentals to support the technical movement to the upside here. All right. So on the 4, this is what your setup would look like. It's on the 4. It's the fibs running off this high here, Reese, right? And I'm just tracking them in both directions. So in this bit of consolidation, that up fib got taken out. So I just ran them to the downside, right, to track the movement to the upside. That's all. And that gave me the 4-hour 80-20 scenario here on the move back long, which gave us a little bit of confluence there. So that's it. Just that consolidation is what makes it weird on those lower time frames. Good question though. Yeah. I'll run a sub fib to the upside though, so we can see that as well. Boom. All right, and that's to your 618 level, like so. All right. So if we run that sub fib, let's see. Why are we taking it? And that even got taken out too on that push down to the downside. So wait on another swing high to form, and we'll be able to run a sub fibs to the upside there. Yeah, so that's on the 4, right? There's the 80-20 scenario on the 4. So confluence on the 4-hour and the 1 hour. Yep, exactly. So, and there we are there, right? And we also had shallow retracement just with that 118 level, right? So more confirmation in line with that weekly support level, 80-20 scenario. We got to push on the 1, right? We got to our TP level, TP2, then the pullback, and now we're continuing to the upside there. All right, so we can run those sub fibs here. That one got taken out. Run our sub fibs here to the upside. Those also got taken out. So we'll come to our most recent low and boom. All right, 382, just shy of that 50% level, push to the upside. So we'll wait on the new AB boundary to form on the 1. We'll look for a pullback and then continuation to the upside. And again, here it's about trade management and allowing the trades to do what they do. All right, so 76 pips, 77 pips to the upside there, with a little bit to go. All right, so that's the Aussie Swiss in motion. Questions on the Aussie Swiss?
No questions. Oh, we do got one from Reese.
Let's see. In this situation, if I'm bullish, wait for AB boundary to get taken out, right? You can, yes. That's the capital fib to the upside. What you could also do is looking at these sub fibs to the upside here, right? Because once that capital fib gets taken out, then this will be your capital fib sequence to the upside. So on the sub fib, you can wait for AB boundary price to pull back into the sweet spot, and then look for an entry long going in that direction. All right, so that'll give you an earlier entry opposed to waiting for that A to get taken out. But you can wait for that A to get taken out to get long. But you'll likely get a new AB boundary at some point within here before we get to that AB boundary, and you'll get a pullback and a low price in here, right? Maybe even reach us in this 56,648 level. Right. So just say, for example, if that's the next AB boundary, right? If that's the next AB boundary, then maybe you get some action that looks like this, right? And then you just wait for price to come into the sweet spot here. And then you can enter this to the upside here, right? Because now this supports your bullish bias. And as long as price doesn't break that previous support level, right, stays inside this new AB boundary, then you have an opportunity to get long at a low price, right? And now we're pushing to the upside where that now D extension will take out that A in that move long. You follow me on that, Reese? Yeah. So, and so the A will be taken out. And now this is your capital fib sequence to the upside, right? And then you get a new AB boundary and the sequence starts all over again. Okay. That makes sense to everybody else? It's a good question. Okay. All right. Cool deal. And that's also right. These fibs run into the downside because we were previously moving down, right? So then we're in a down retracement zone. And so those fibs to the downside puts us in that 80-20 position, right? To catch that move and swing back to the upside as well. So off the original setup, and then we get the opportunities to add to the scale in the trade as price continues to move as well. All right. Cool deal. Let's look at the this Euro Swiss yeah. Because that sub fib sequence turns into your capital fib sequence once it takes out the A. Right. So if your bias is in the opposite direction of your current fib sequence, right? Looking at those moves. And a lot of times, like I said, that down fib sequence puts us in that 80-20 position to begin with, right? So then that allows us to move in that direction. This Euro Swiss, this one has been interesting. It's definitely been interesting. Just shy of 50% on the daily fib, right? We got this double bottom here at this 94,031 level, and we're trying to push to the upside. We got some resistance, previous support coming in here at 95,230. Be interesting to see if we're able to break that on the move to the upside. Coming down here, we just wicked this 118 level on the push down last Thursday, and we've been making higher lows. Right now, we got to break this resistance level to make a higher high. So we'll watch and see how things move here. This will be interesting. We had dovish comments from Christine Lagarde, but capital starting to flow out of the safe havens just a bit, right? Even if it is just a retracement, with things starting to ease in the Middle East, we're seeing some of the capital start to shift, right? So this is a pair that'll be interesting to watch how things move, but we could see this move continue pushing to the upside, right? In favor of the yen, which is counter to that Swissy. So we'll watch and see if we're able to break that level to continue that move to the upside here. Coming down to the one. There's your move long there. Boom. There's your AB boundary, right? We were just shy that 118 on the push down. So this fib is similar to that 4-hour fib. And we're looking to see if we can break that level and push to the upside here, right? This is one of the Swissy crosses that I did not take. One of the crosses that I did not take, but it is moving to the upside nonetheless. Where are you looking at, JC? Potentially a let's see. Crown pattern there. Yep, good eye. That is a good eye, right? So that's your crown pattern there, right? And we're getting that push to the upside. Okay. Nice work, right? So that would then make sense. So now we run that harmonic fib. Boom. And there we have it. So this would be there. And there we go, right? So that pullback, 618 retracement. And now we're pushing along the extension there in line with that 50% level on the capital fib to the downside on the one. All right, so that makes sense. Good work, JC. Okay, so we got crown pattern action there. Additional confirmation on the reversal. 9500 right here. Gotcha. Yep. So we're looking at that move to the upside. Look for a break of this daily resistance level was support, retest, and then continuation long there. All right. So we'll continue to monitor the progress there. Any other questions on the Euro, Swissy? Nice work, Joy. Oh, all right. Cool deal. We looked at the pound Swiss. This Swiss yen. So I'm watching this one. Ooh, it's starting to break down. So we hit the D extension on the daily time frame on this pound Swiss, right? We're pulling back now. So we'll get a fresh AB boundary at some point. That'll look like this, right? So here's our AB boundary. We broke that daily level. We're pulling back now, right? Coming down to the 4. We got a 618 retracement on the push to the upside, and we're pulling back off of this long push to the upside here. So I'm watching this to see how deep this retracement comes, right? And obviously with the Bank of Japan on Monday, we'll watch that data and that information to see what the Bank of Japan decides to do. But this could potentially set us up for a low price to get back long on a ride to the D extension and that 170 level that I'm watching. But it could also, if the Bank of Japan changes or hints at earlier changes, we could see that just continue to drive down. So something to watch as we move forward. I'm still not in this yet, but did talk about this 166, 617 level. And if price does break it and hold below it, then we could look at some short opportunities in the short term. So coming down to the 1 hour, and this is where you got your 80-20 scenario, right? And we're breaking that level now. So if I'm watching this closely because I didn't take this 80-20 to the downside, right? Because I didn't expect it to break this 166 level, but it is. So my thoughts may change on this one, right? And we'll look at potentially a low price to get back long sometime next week, right? We'll see what the Bank of Japan has to say. But we're pressing down to the downside. This is the 80-20 scenario. So the move down makes sense, right? It's not extremely surprising. So we'll see if we stay inside this AB boundary. If we stay inside this AB boundary, whoops. And if we do, then that could give us the opportunity for that move there and a continued drive to the upside. If that's what price is going to do, if the Bank of Japan does reaffirm their stance and doesn't make any changes, then we could see some action like that. Now, if the Bank of Japan says, yep, we're going to move up our timeline because inflation is moving back to the upside, then we could see this thing the bottom just fall out and continue running to the downside. So we'll watch it and see what happens, right? But this is an 80-20 scenario that's playing out as it should, right? So we'll watch and see how things happen in those lower ranges there. So I'm not making any decisions just yet on this one, even though we did break that that support level. So sitting and watching, still being patient on it to see what transpires. Okay. Any questions on that thought process or any opposing thoughts to that thought process? Benny, what you think about this one, man? This one has been wild. No.
Yeah, I don't know what I mean, it became too high to keep buying. And it's another 80-20 playing out. So he said I wait for that downside target, or wait for pullbacks and continuations. I think that's going to continue to drop off because when you look across the board at the Swissy pairs, right? The CAD, Swiss, all those pairs that we had, that we had marked up that were set up for 80/20s, you can see across the board that Swissie is showing some weakness right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe once you get to that low price, because we're coming in on that 382 target now.
Yeah.
But other than a major pullback and look for a continuation down and take the short, I definitely will be waiting at this point because it's close to that 382 level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm with you there on that. But it's just beautiful how it just continues to play out. It finally ran out of steam to the upside.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just curious on if the Bank of Japan holds their stance. Do we see one last push to the upside? And this
Yeah,
from a
the
weekly
question.
time frame perspective, looking at it here.
Yeah, that's a
In
good
that
that's a good
level.
question going into next week.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then that level, right? That 118, 127 on the weekly is the D extension on the monthly,
Mm-hmm.
which we've been driving to. So I don't from a higher time frame perspective, that's why I'm a little conflicted and looking to see if we get one last hurrah
Yeah.
on that move to
No, I
the
get it.
upside to get exhaustion on all the levels.
I
So
get
we'll
it.
see.
I get it.
We'll see. Yeah. But I follow you on the weakness in that Swissy though. What you got, Reese? Dollar CAD. Let's take a look at it real quick. Dollar CAD 80/20. So we got, clean this up, we'll bounce back. Go back to the daily real quick. Boom. So daily overall. There we go. 618 retracement, pressing to the upside, coming to the top of this range that we've been in, right? Pressing here. We can take this out. We can take that out. We got support there. All right. So coming into level 138,538 as resistance. This will be interesting to see here, right? Because we also had this little crown pattern play out. We're trying to play out here. So do we get a short-term pullback before continuation to the upside there, making our way to those higher time frame D extensions? This dollar CAD will be interesting, especially if we get some strength coming out with oil and with the Canadian dollar. So this could be a battle. This will be interesting to see how it plays out over the long term. But that's the daily pressing to the upside, coming into a level of daily resistance there. Coming down to the 4, we'll run these fibs to the upside off the low here, out of the consolidation. And there we go. 382 push to the upside. We're in that 118, 127 zone on the 4. Price trying to turn over, right? Maybe get a little sideways action there on the 4, but pressing to the upside here off that 382. Coming down to the 1. I'll fix that later. Let's see. That one got taken out. Boom. Boom. I see you, Reese, right? 80/20 scenario here. Shallow retracement, 118 to 127 zone. Price turned over, created a swing high just shy of the D extension, right? So we'll see if we can get price to turn back over and press back down to the downside, especially if we get some more retracement coming out of the DXY and the dollar. And that data that comes out later on this morning, right? 8:30 PCE. We shall see. That's a good setup there, man. Appreciate you posting that one. All right. So there's the opportunity there. All right. So we move on the Aussie CAD. Okay, I'll check that one out. I've been sent to the side on that Aussie CAD too, just waiting to see what happens there. Boom. Right. So there is your 80-20 scenario here on the dollar CAD. Right. We got stop loss 43 pips just above that D extension. TP1 137, TP2 177. So let's do this. That's an opportunity. That is an opportunity. Boom. Said 177 there. 43 on the stop loss. Ooh. Let's do it. Oh yeah, drop some sevens in the chat for Reese.